Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi Dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today we're digging into an important update that's been circulating among Iraqi Dinar followers, especially those tracking developments in 2026, what it really means to exchange Iraqi Dinar at Chase Bank. There's a lot of misinformation out there, so let's break it down carefully, factually, and with context so you understand what's possible and what's not regarding your IQD holdings. First, it's vital to be clear and factual. As of the most recent banking policies reflected in 2025 and extending into 2026, major U.S. banks like Chase do not offer retail exchange services for the Iraqi Dinar in the same way they do for freely traded currencies such as euros, British pounds, or Japanese yen. Chase Bank's published foreign exchange rules make this explicit. Iraqi Dinar is not on the list of currencies supported for standard branch exchange or deposit transactions for personal or business accounts. This is rooted in how the currency is treated by international financial systems and U.S. regulatory frameworks, not because of speculation about future value. Why is that? The Iraqi Dinar is considered a closed or restricted currency. Unlike major global currencies traded on international foreign exchange markets, the IQD does not have broad acceptance as a freely convertible currency outside of Iraq. Banks like Chase tailor their foreign exchange offerings to currencies that are liquid, widely traded, and readily cleared through global settlement systems. Because the dinar does not fit into those categories, and because of compliance with stringent anti-money laundering and Office of Foreign Assets Control regulations in the United States, Chase does not provide direct buy, sell, or deposit services for Iraqi Dinar. From a procedural standpoint, if a Chase customer were to inquire about exchanging IQD at a branch, the bank would typically inform them that such a service is unavailable. Account systems, compliance checks, and internal reporting processes simply aren't set up to accept IQD deposits or perform IQD to USD conversions for consumer accounts. That's different from how most people understand exchange. It's not that the bank dislikes the IQD or is hiding something. It's a matter of policy regulation and international banking practice. Let's also address the context that often surrounds videos or online speculation about Chase starting full IQD exchange operations in 2026. You might have seen claims, particularly on social platforms or YouTube, asserting a dramatic policy shift at Chase or that Chase is rolling out support for IQD exchange. Those claims are not verified by official bank policy documents or regulatory filings. They often emerge from community speculation rather than bank disclosures. In the absence of an actual announcement from Chase, Federal Reserve guidance, or changes in U.S. law specifically permitting IQD transactions, these remain unsubstantiated. What's important for viewers and followers to know is that credible financial institutions communicate policy changes through official channels, not through third-party social posts. So what does this mean for Iraqi Dinar holders? In the short term, the practical takeaway is this: you cannot currently walk into a Chase Bank branch in the US and expect to exchange Iraqi Dinar for US dollars as you might with a euro or Canadian dollar. This applies whether you have physical banknotes, account balances denominated in IQD, or are hoping for a revaluation event to trigger a conversion process. That's not a matter of timing, it's about the underlying policy and regulatory environment. For holders who possess physical IQD and want to convert it, the more straightforward paths have historically been through licensed currency exchange services that handle restricted currencies, specialized international forex brokers, or by transacting where the currency is officially accepted and convertible, for example, within Iraq itself through the Central Bank of Iraq and its authorized banks and exchange houses. These channels involve their own fees, requirements, and verification processes, and they are separate from U.S. domestic banks' retail FX services. What about expectations around a possible revaluation? It's important to separate two different topics: exchange mechanics and currency valuation. A revaluation, a change in the official value of the dinar relative to the US dollar, would be a monetary policy decision by Iraqi authorities, notably the Central Bank of Iraq and would likely be reflected in official exchange rate regimes, like the one used for budgeting versus actual transactional rates seen in official banking systems and the market. Even if such a policy shift were to occur, US banks like Chase would still be bound by domestic regulations in deciding if and when to offer IQD services. Any change in a US financial institution's policy would require that bank to align with US Treasury and Federal Reserve rules, conduct thorough risk assessments, update compliance systems, and likely publish guidance on how IQD transactions would be handled. Until that happens, there's no mechanism for personal exchange of IQD at Chase. In terms of short-term economic implications, this status quo means that Iraqi dinar holders based outside of Iraq should continue to manage their expectations realistically. Holding physical IQD carries exchange risk and liquidity considerations because access to conversion channels is limited by geography and banking policy. It also means that any speculative trading premised on unexpected liquidity events at major international banks should be viewed with caution. Currency markets are driven by macroeconomic factors, including Iraq's fiscal position, crude oil revenues, foreign exchange reserves, and monetary stability, not by announcements from individual commercial banks. Looking at long-term implications, there are a few areas to watch that could influence the situation over time. If the Iraqi government or central bank formalizes broader convertibility for the dinar, for example by liberalizing its exchange regime, this could eventually change how international banks treat IQD. That would likely be part of larger economic reforms, such as stronger regulatory frameworks, improved currency market infrastructure, and clearer global acceptance of the dinar in cross-border transactions. But even in that scenario, any US bank adaptation would lag official Iraqi policy changes and require compliance with US regulatory standards. From the vantage point of financial markets, currency convertibility and liquidity are key drivers of how easily a currency can be exchanged through international banking systems. Until the dinar is widely traded on global forex platforms and recognized as a freely convertible currency, institutions like Chase will treat it as a restricted currency outside their standard offerings. That does not make the dinar worthless. It simply reflects the current operational and regulatory environment for banks operating under US law. For our audience following the Iraqi dinar story, what we can confidently say is this: if you're focused on actionable, realistic currency developments, pay attention to official sources like the Central Bank of Iraq's published exchange rates, Iraq's fiscal policy updates, and international financial institution reports. These give you grounded insight into how the currency functions in real economic terms. They're far more reliable for gauging long-term prospects than social speculation about bank policies that have not been officially documented. As you continue following IQD developments, remember that currency exchange services, whether through specialized brokers or in Iraq's banking system, come with compliance obligations. Always verify that any exchange or service you use is licensed and transparent about costs, regulatory compliance, and operational terms. Avoid promises of extraordinary returns or shortcut paths. These are red flags for misinformation or scams rather than credible financial processes. Thanks for watching this detailed breakdown. If you want responsible, factual updates on the Iraqi dinar and developments in Iraq's economy, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. This content is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice. Always consult qualified professionals when making financial decisions.